Hey, I'm Eli.
And I'm Vince.
And we are.
Film posers.
Today, we're diving into Natural Born Killers. We've seen almost all of Quentin Tarantino's filmography, but this one he hates. The one he wrote, walked away from, and then disowned like it never happened.
About Natural Born Killers, did you not like that Oliver Stone did with it? Because you wrote that, right?
Yeah. Well, basically, that he rewrote my script. I ain't gonna play this game. He didn't have a right to do it. I would rather he stole it.
So stick around. We'll tell you why we've never seen it, what we're expecting going in, and then we'll watch the film and come back with our honest, first-time reactions.
Confessions of a Film Poser!
Back in 1990, while still working at Video Archives, Quentin Tarantino wrote Natural Born Killers. It was meant to be a satirical lovers-on-the-run story, violent but grounded in his signature dark humor and sharp dialogue, much like True Romance. A year later, in 1991, Tarantino sold the script to help fund Reservoir Dogs. Enter director Oliver Stone. Fresh off his movie JFK, Stone, along with writers David Velaz and Richard Rutowski, rewrote Tarantino's script almost entirely. They kept the characters Mickey and Mallory Knox, but transformed the story into a psychedelic, media-saturated road movie, a wild critique of America's obsession with violence. Tarantino hated it.
No, I don't have any responsibility to you to explain anything I don't want to.
He publicly distanced himself from the project, saying the film, quote, isn't mine anymore. Only fragments of his original dialogue survived. In 1994, Natural Born Killers hit theaters and immediately sparked controversy. It was heavily censored, banned in multiple countries, and even blamed for inspiring real-life copycat crimes. Yet, despite, or maybe because of, that controversy, it became a cult classic, praised for its frantic editing, bold visuals, and savage commentary on media culture. Tarantino, however, still disowns it completely, calling it, quote, a bastardization of my script. Whew. So, no. Natural Born Killers isn't making it onto the Tarantino family crest anytime soon. Hey, Ghost of Present Eli and Vince, can you break the tension of Mommy Oliver Stone and Daddy QT fighting at the dinner table and tell us why you've never seen Natural Born Killers? All right, Vinny, this week we have Natural Born Killers. This is kind of the second in our series, quote unquote, of movies Tarantino wrote but didn't direct. Why haven't you ever seen this movie?
Much like the other one, this is one that I'd never heard of, and unlike the other one, I started off by watching the trailer, and I think we did a good job watching the other one first, because I don't know about you, but this kind of looks rough, dude.
Yeah, this one, dude, when I see the cover of this movie, like the classic cover, it's Woody Harrelson, like looking down, he's got his glasses on with the Natural Born Killers font. When I see that poster, dude, I can smell Blockbuster. When I was a kid, I remember seeing this movie so often in Blockbuster, like the poster itself, but then seeing it just on the shelf. And I always knew who Woody Harrelson was because, you know, my family was a Cheers family and I knew who Woody Harrelson was. But my parents kind of liked him. So I was always kind of aware of him. And I always just it always put me off. I don't know why. But I was in a recording studio for a series of days and the engineer watched this movie on repeat. So I had seen like chunks of it. But never like knew what was going on. It was like the sound was never on or anything else like that. So Natural Born Killers has been haunting me and hunting me down for years.
Yeah, that's so weird because I really haven't heard anyone talk about this or True Romance, which again I am still thinking about and loved. I'm not the biggest Woody Harrelson fan, so I'm sure even if I saw this cover on like a streaming service, or I don't even remember if I ever saw it in a Blockbuster, I probably wouldn't gravitate to it.
I'm very hit or miss with Woody Harrelson. There's stuff that he's in that I think he's very good in, and there's other stuff where he's just Woody Harrelson. Yeah. And for a while, he was kind of like the Helen Hunt in like the early aughts, where he was in so many movies that you're just like, oh, here's another Woody Harrelson joint. Wait around, Woody Harrelson. It's like kind of what we're going through with Pedro Pascal right now.
Oh,
but he's hit or miss. I like him okay in certain things. There's a few movies that I really like him in. I liked him in Zombieland. I thought he was very good in that. But again, you know, he's playing Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. What was the HBO TV show too?
True Detective.
True Detective. That was great. There's certain roles that I've seen, like Zombieland and a few other ones, where he's pretty good. He was in what's that bowling movie too? Kingpin. That was good. It's just he's not an actor that I'm ever excited to see. I don't know if that's gonna get me hate, but I was thinking about it today, and I was just like, I don't think I really like Woody.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a character actor, right? So he is kind of the glue that holds certain movies together. And like I said, he does really well in that in certain movies. In other movies, you're just like, okay, I've seen him do this before.
Yeah, I've had enough.
But this one, dude, I think for me more than anything else, I'm not a like Oliver Stone has done movies that I really like. JFK is a fantastic movie. He did a movie a while back called Savages that I thought was one of the worst movies that I'd ever seen. Travolta reeled me into that movie. I think it was Travolta, and I don't know. I'm not the biggest Oliver Stone guy. And then you kind of dig in more to what happened with Quentin Tarantino and the fact that they basically erased his movie. It never compelled me to want to go out of, I'm like, I'll just put on Reservoir Dogs, or, now I'll just put on True Romance if I want a taste of Quentin.
Yeah, for sure.
Which sounds sexier than I meant it.
I'm not the biggest Oliver Stone fan either, but I will have to say the Doors movie, I didn't realize that was one of his own. That one is very good.
Yeah, that one's really good. Nixon is really good.
He did Platoon too. We haven't seen Platoon yet.
For a large swath of my life, he's been the conspiracy theory guy, and he's always on shows. He's always putting out. I've got a buddy, our mutual friend Sean, who I texted him once because I'm a sucker for JFK stuff, and he put out a documentary a few years ago, a new documentary, like a JFK assassination revisited. Because he's a big conspiracy theorist when it comes to JFK, and I tend to agree with a lot of the stuff that he kind of talks about. But Sean texts me back and goes, "Oh, great, just what the world needs, another Oliver Stone documentary about JFK," which just always, now when I think of Oliver Stone, I think about that quote and it makes me laugh. But I'm also expecting, and I'm trying to go into this without the stank of it being a Tarantino movie, so much so that I bought it just to like erase the fact that I'm going to go into this expecting a Tarantino movie, because I don't think that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, especially if they bought the story and then changed nearly everything. And it's not a good sign that Quentin despises this movie either. So
no, which Quentin's a very opinionated person, so it's not surprising at the same time. But I've never heard him really go in on True Romance like that, so he must be more aligned. But again, if you haven't watched that episode, that was the last episode we did. I believe it was episode number 13 was the most recent one that we did, and yeah, it was fun. We watched it and we basically did the same thing. This is kind of like, this is if like True Romance and Natural Born Killers are like the Cain and Abel of the Tarantino story. And, it feels like Natural Born Killers is like the twin brother that everybody forgets about. And like when you're at a party and your parents are like, "Oh, this is our son, True Romance." And then they're like, "Well, who's that other kid over there in the shadows?" Like, "Oh, that's Natural Born Killers. He come say hi." It's like the redheaded stepchild. Yeah. So anyway, I'm ready to get to it.
Same, dude. Let's roll this bad boy.
All right, let's pass it off to future Vincent Eli. Future Vincent Eli, let us know what you thought of this movie.
What did we just watch?
Oh, dude, what a achievement of cinema Natural Born Killers is and was. Thoughts, give me your thoughts. You come in packed, dude. Let's hear it.
So I meant to say in the last movie that I never that was the most 90s movie. True Romance was the most 90s movie, and that was until I saw this thing, dude. This thing, did you think of any, like, I was getting flashbacks of watching Batman Forever.
Well, that's just because Tommy Lee Jones was in it.
It's the same character.
I had a thought while I was watching this. So the cast of this is killer. It's Woody Harrelson, and I didn't talk about it at the beginning, which I should have. So shout that out really quick. It was Woody Harrelson, Juliette Lewis, who I just believe is that character. So I think that speaks well for her performance. Tommy Lee Jones, Tom Sizemore, Robert Downey Jr. was the big
Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield in a role that like. I can't imagine like late in your life playing that role. So killer cast, really good cast, very 90s cast. I did get shades of Batman Forever, and I just kept thinking like, then when I thought of that, I watched it as if it was the Harvey Dent Two-Face from Batman Forever. Like, this is the story that led up to him becoming Two-Face.
He survives the prison break, and half of his body's burnt from whatever acid they threw on him. Dude.
Well, they had to reattach his head too, because his head popped off.
He was on a pike at the end of it. Dude, I don't even I'm watching that movie and trying to process what's happening, and the entire time I don't know what to say about it. I don't know if I liked it. I don't know if I hated it. I don't know if I loved it. Um Woody Harrelson and Juliette Lewis,
Yeah.
those are two of my least favorite actors, and I feel like the fact that I don't like them almost played well into this movie because you're not supposed to necessarily like them in this movie.
Oh, there's not one character in this entire movie that's likable.
No.
By design.
Yeah. And it definitely plays into how crazy the 90s were, and it kind of like how crazy things are now. I like watching these movies and seeing like how unsettling people felt in their own time, and just remembering like, okay, the same feelings that we're feeling now are not new. Like everyone is so used to like the chaos of their own life that they think it's the worst that it's ever been. And then you watch something like this and just get a feel of maybe how some people felt in the 90s. I don't know if you picked up on that at all, but I don't even know how to process what I just watched.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this movie. So I have a couple of thoughts on this movie as I was watching and I was trying to formulate. Much like you, I agree with that. It's like you're watching it, trying to take it in, going, "What is this?" Like you're looking at shadows on a cave wall, and you're trying to formulate what the message is here. I think the modern age we live in, the message of this movie is probably never been more apt than now with social media. I mean, everything is like everybody does everything for clips and clout and all that good stuff. But I feel like the message of this movie was completely lost in the style of movie that it was. When it first started, the beginning of this movie, I really liked. I felt the most Quentin-ness, if there is any Quentin in this, in that opening diner scene. Because a lot of Quentin movies either start in a diner or take place at some point in a diner.
Yeah, and the music and the dancing and the feel, like it definitely was.
See, the music cues, the needle drops, I did not feel like were Quentin
for the first scene. For the
not
jukebox.
even the first scene. Not even the first scene. And there was no tension built in that scene. It was just boom. So during this movie, I was actually reading up. Quentin Tarantino published his script for this movie. So I cannot wait to go and read that. Probably tonight in bed after this. But that was one of the things in the way in which he coped and felt better about this movie, because I guess he was so angry. He published the script, and that was one of the things that he hated about this movie was he didn't want people to watch this movie and think that he had anything to do with the making of it. And so in order to kind of, feel better about that, he published a script so people could read what he wrote. He also has a quote that I read where he was like, "If you like my stuff, you shouldn't watch this movie." Pump the brakes, Quentin. Pump the brakes a little bit. Like, no, like, I don't agree with that. But, I think that there was a really great message in this movie somewhere. Like you had to kind of pull out your like Geiger counter to find where the messaging was. Obviously, it was a critique of violence and the media and how media sells the violence. Like I mentioned before, that's ever more relevant right now with social media, and that anybody can pick up their camera and do what we're doing right now. But in that, like a fever dream of images and the way that it told its story made it cartoonish and made it like the message of this movie and what you could have done with Mickey and Mallory in kind of examining their characters and what leads them to be the people that they are, and that violence breeds violence, sins of the father. You just keep repeating nature versus nurture. You repeat what you're shown and what you grew up in. That was in there, but it just was so cartoonish that just for me got completely lost.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. You're watching it and you know that he's trying to tell you something, but the way in which he's telling the story makes it hard to follow, and also visually there's just so much going on that it's hard to like take a chance to like think about what is being said, because the next thing's happening and blasting into your face. The whole movie is just
blasting in your face. That's how I felt, dude.
Yeah, and I think part of it was to make you feel crazy, and I think it was effective in that way. And I will say this movie was an experience. I thought I was going to really like it in like the first half hour of it. There isn't much story here. That's the part of the biggest complaint of this movie I have, is that it's not a movie. It's not a story. It's an examination of these two crazy people, but you know they're crazy, and there's nothing that they reveal that makes it any more interesting or makes you think about it, other than the introduction of Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who's this kind of like tabloid journalist who's selling their story, and the media is complicit in their crazy. You know what? This movie felt like Oliver Stone cornered me in a bar and just started telling me like what he thought of like violence in the media. And I couldn't get out. At a certain point, I couldn't get out of the conversation. No matter how many times I tried to be like, hey, Jim, yeah, I'll be right there. Or like, you know, when you're on a phone call and like you're trying to like, all right, we'll see you. All right, yeah. All right, well, I'll let you know. It's like, and the person just goes into another story. That's what this movie felt like. But there was no story. That's the worst part.
Yeah, it felt like he backed you into the corner and was like punching you and macing you while making you try to understand what he's trying to tell you. And it's just the entire time you feel so uneasy watching it that I went into this thinking I was going to hate it. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. I was intrigued by a lot of it, but I don't know if I'd ever watch it again.
Yeah, I mean, there was multiple times in this movie I wanted to just scream, let me breathe.
Yeah,
Let me
dude.
take a breath for a second. And it just like every time it was a gut punch. And, you know, again, like going back to the beginning of the story, when they're in the car and they're driving, and there's like they're driving in a car on a soundstage and there's images just all around them. I was like, okay, this could be an interesting way to tell the story. They're going to make you feel crazy. They're going to take you inside the mind of these killers. And they did that. And then they cut to basically the backstory of Juliette Lewis and, you know, the abuse that she incurred at home. They get a little bit into that with Mickey's character, with Woody Harrelson's character. But then it just like, that's it. And they just tell you like, there's no finesse to this movie.
No.
There's no like, we're going to really bury the moral, I guess, or the message of this story. This is a blunt force object, dude.
Yeah, and then the backstory of Mickey, I couldn't tell, did he kill his dad or did his brother kill his dad?
No, his dad, according to this movie, from what I gathered, who knows, because it's all shadows.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's relevant to the story too, but I believe his dad committed suicide, blew his brains out in front of him.
Okay, because there's the scene in the hay where there's obviously the gunshot and his dad dies, and I couldn't tell if there was someone with him, but it could have just been a shadow. It could have just been something. I liked the fact that the Native American was able to see the demons in them, and then I think it kind of justified for Mickey that he isn't responsible for what he's doing because there's a demon in him, and the Native American was able to see it. So he would like, I'm just grasping for straws. Who knows?
But that's dumb, though. Like, that's dumb. Like, if the moral of this movie is that people aren't responsible for their own actions because of the media, then that's the wrong freaking message to send.
Yeah.
And if that's the message that Oliver Stone is trying to portray, then that makes no sense. And you're complicit in this because you're making a movie where you're, you know, and on one hand, through a certain lens, are glorifying these things, all in the vein of being like, they're bad. The media is bad because they're doing this. Although this big ass budget movie that we just made, also
the media.
It's also like kind of like it's kind of a shiv to Quentin Tarantino too, who makes highly violent movies. But I will say, his highly violent movies, they're not portraying these people who are killers for the most part as like some kind of heroic or sympathetic character. And I felt like that was some of the like underlying subtext of this, and that just made me feel gross.
I could see that. Quentin Tarantino does a good job, like we've talked about before, in like building characters and then building up these people that are doing terrible things, but kind of making it like an everyday occurrence. And at some point they get their day to feel the pain too. This one,
Exactly.
Everyone felt the pain if they deserved it or not. There's certain producers and stuff during the ending part of the of the prison scene that are like kind of coaxing it on, and then they die, and it was the entire movie's chaos. From like the first 3 minutes are calm and they're dancing, and then after that to the very end, it's absolute chaos.
Well, and Quentin's thing is like all these people are going to die in the end. You know they're going to die in the end. It's just a matter of which characters make it out.
And he builds it up.
You spend 2 hours understanding that, and you look at something like Django Unchained, which is highly violent, but he tells you why you should agree with that violence in terms of retribution. Now, does anybody do you go into a Quentin Tarantino movie going, you know what? I'm going to go enact those things that I just saw in that movie? No. And if you do, you're like not very smart. But this movie is calling both sides stupid while simultaneously promoting both sides, whether through, the act of being a part of the media apparatus. Is like, I don't know what studio made this movie, but I'm sure it was it was either Warner Brothers. I think it was Warner Brothers.
I think it was Warner Brothers.
Which means I'm not going to be able to put in very many clips in this episode because they'll take it
I'm
down.
sure they're trying to hide this movie, dude.
But I felt like Oliver Stone was up his own butt the whole movie and fell in love with his style. I don't mind the acid trip. In fact, I enjoy the acid trip in certain movies. That's why we were going back to Paul Thomas Anderson. Some of his movies don't follow a linear story necessarily or tell you everything to think. I think about something like Inherent Vice. That's an acid trip of a movie. But it's never. It still is telling a story in its own and plays by the rules that it's set up. This was just like, hey, here's things you already know about these people. Now I can watch them for 2 hours.
Yeah, some of my favorite movies are movies that are open-ended endings. Weapons, you kind of have to figure out what you think it means. The movie Men, there's so much stuff going on. It's the same thing. You just kind of come up with what you think it means. This one, I can't even begin to think what the storyline was, what he was trying to tell us from the story.
There's no storyline. There's no storyline, and I hope somebody sees this. If you like this movie, please, by all means, put it in the comments. But I know what it's going to be. It's like, well, there is a story. The story is about some esoteric explanation about, the story is America, and America breeds violence, and that's why the Native American guy was able to see the wisdom and the demons in Mickey. So therefore, but he didn't offer any kind of a solution other than the Native American guys.
Yeah, say it. Too.
The indigenous person they're complicit in it too, because he could have killed them and then they wouldn't have killed all of these innocent people. So with that being said, I will never watch this movie again. And the unfortunate part is I own it.
I can see it.
I own it. Yeah, I put it right there. It's right there. It's proof. I own it.
It's a trophy, dude.
It looked beautiful. It is a trophy. Not one that I will watch again. I'm going to give this a rewatchability score, 1 out of 5. If I'm rating this on first time experience, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I'm glad I saw it to know that I don't want to watch it again, and that the message, if there is a message in this, it's BS, and it's not made in a palpable way for human beings to understand and take it and think about it and go, they had a good point about that. We shouldn't enact violence and we shouldn't buy the media. We should turn our TVs off. There's so many things. Or like the abusive relationship between Mallory and her father and that whole relationship. When they did the sitcom thing, I was like, oh, this is a really creative way to tell that. And then after I saw the whole movie, that sequence pissed me off more than anything else, because they made it a cartoon and they made it a laugh line. And if he was sitting here, he'd be like, well, no, what we're doing is, Americans they're fed sitcoms and they think everything's a sitcom and everything's funny and everything's entertainment. And it's like, but that's not what you're saying in this. Like, the violence is the entertainment in this. So this movie is a walking contradiction. And that's why I give it a 1 out of 5 rewatchability score.
Based off performance, Robert Downey Jr., I don't feel like he
sucked too. He wasn't good in this movie.
His accent wasn't consistent throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I love Rodney Dangerfield. I've never seen him play something so dark. Again, I thought I was going to hate this more than I did, but that being said, I still didn't like it at all. And watchability score would be a 1. Overall, seeing it and just it existing, I'd give it a 2 out of 5. Like it's cool that it's
You're
out
a
there.
sick individual. You're a
Dude,
sick individual.
It's cool that it's out there. It's cool that someone made
Censor
this.
it.
It's not for me at all. I'm scared for whoever finds this to be one of their favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
Hate
It's
me
the
in
people that are
comments.
like, well, Manson had some good points, man. It's for that audience.
Yeah.
Which normally, you find me on the right day.
Yeah, you're usually in that camp.
No.
For a 90s movie, I feel like art house movies in the 90s were wild. This definitely takes the cake.
All right, man. I think we said everything that we wanted to say about this movie. Glad we watched it. Of the Tarantino bastard children, this was not my favorite. You have anything else you want to add, Vince?
Yeah, I'm going to throw in an offer of $5 to buy that 4K off you.
You can have it. Merry Christmas, buddy.
I'm giving it to someone for Secret Santa, dude.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you haven't, like and subscribe. Comment it. Tell us what you think about this movie. If we're way off, tell us why we're way off. Come back, watch the past episodes, watch the new ones we're putting out. We got some cool movies coming up that we're going to watch, and we like watching them with you all. So come on back. Thanks, Vince.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.
Confessions of a Film Poser.